Okay. I'll stop talking about everything that we've been talking about. And we are live. Welcome to MLB Live Before Lock, round 2 edition. Not my first MLB Live Before Lock today, but Live Before Lock is so fun, I figured we'd do it twice. 3 games tonight, leading to Cowboys, which is really the main event. This is the appetizer. I'm Belman. By the way, you can follow me at Josh Engelman. Joined by Matt again, man. We were talking like, oh, we haven't done this in a while, a couple days ago. Turns out we're doing it again today. What's going on, man?
Nothing, bro. Excited to be here with you. Unfortunately, this is the last week of regular season baseball, but maybe we'll have some stuff for the playoffs.
Sure.
Yeah, tiny slate tonight, but should be a fun one to break down.
It's a weird one. It's a weird one for sure. We're going to be able to touch on everything that could possibly exist on this slate. When we're done touching on everything, is just going to go away. If we make it to 7 o'clock, great. If we don't, also great. We're going to be able to hit on every single possible question everybody can want to ask today by default. That's what's going to happen today. So I'm currently running my sim to see what I end up with for this 3-gamer. And then we could talk about those sort of results when they're done. Going to be a bit. But for now, let's break it on down. We've got one team that's definitely not the top stack. That would be the Marlins. The Twins, the Dodgers, the Padres, all looking pretty similar. I'm going to throw it to you just to start. Do you have a team you have your eye on?
I think the Twins look the best, like pretty clearly to me, even though the other teams you mentioned look good. But man, the ownership is hard to swallow on such a small slate, especially if you're talking like the 333, 100 entries, 3-entry max. Like, I imagine the top of the Twins line is going to be 50% owned. I'm not saying they shouldn't be, but like, do I really want to play that? I do think they look the best, though. Do you see it the same way?
I do. They are number 1 in my top stack tool for tonight. We have it like 27% to the Twins and then 19 to San Diego. I'm a little lighter on the Twins, and I tend to be, but they're still number 1 at 23%. And then I do have also the Padres in at the 2 spot, but I have the Padres a little bit higher. So I'm a little lighter on the Twins overall, a little bit stronger on the Padres, and a lot of bit stronger on the Dodgers, who are 4th technically in top stack odds at 14.5%. Obviously a little bit more expensive, but I'm a bit more of a fan of the Dodgers than it seems that we are. And I think they look just a hair behind the Padres, and we got a little bit bigger than that. But yeah, as I look at the Twins, I mean, we're seeing 30 for large field, 30% plus ownership to Byron Buxton, 30% plus to Royce Lewis. Jeffers and Correa and Larnack are all well north of 20%. But they deserve it. I mean, they're number 1 in top stack. They're number 1 in top value. When you're both of those things, you're just going to be drowning in ownership. The way you allocate those guys and the rest of your roster construction is the big conversation point for a 3-gamer.
Yeah. The other like part of the equation is I don't really think any other team is under-owned. So like at that point, just play the Twins, who I also think are appropriately owned. But on the other, side of that coin is that while San Diego, the Yankees, and Dodgers aren't under-owned, like they're not over-owned either, and they're certainly not going to be as highly owned as the Twins. So, yeah, I do think that it gives this slate some nice context, if nothing else.
Yeah, it's a weird one because of the teams that are on this 3-gamer, everything looks a little weirder. Like, yeah, I like the Dodgers a lot. To roster $7,300 Shohei Ohtani on a 3-game slate is not going to be very easy. To bring $5,800 Mookie Betts along for the ride, and Freeman and Teoscar and Max Muncy, I mean, those guys are all you are punting aggressively on your other 3 spots. You're probably not getting to Garrett Cole or Corbin Burns very easily in a construction like that. But like, even if you're looking at the Padres, it's not like they're super cheap. I mean, you still get Tatis north of 5K, Machado north of 5K. The Yankees are generally expensive. The Orioles aren't exactly cheap either. It's part of the reason you're seeing so much ownership going to the Twins, because Yankees, Dodgers, Padres are high-end offenses that are not at all easy to get to financially.
Fair. The only thing I'll say to that is like even the expensive pitchers, like Cole's the most expensive at 9K. So it's not like you're breaking the bank at pitching. Now, yeah, if you're Otani himself, like in Judge, like, you know, those guys are obviously uber expensive, but I just think there's enough cheap pieces to make it work. And even at his price tag, I'm sure Otani will be very highly owned, as he should be.
So I have him pretty significantly underowned right now. Only showing 22%. Only showing 22%. I mean, I know that sounds preposterous. That's a lot of ownership for a $7,300 guy. I don't think it would be crazy at all to see that number be even higher in this spot. I mean, the park is just massive for power. He's leading off. I mean, I've got him projected better than two of the pitchers today, including his own teammate.
Yeah, I mean, he's doing everything. He's like, I can't remember a hitter being better for DFS purposes than Otani right now with his speed. How valuable steals are like for DFS, and he obviously has the power. I mean, he's as good as it gets. So he's a tough fade on any slate.
I'm curious if I get him. I usually don't, because it's generally pretty difficult to pull that off. I don't know if that's going to show up. We'll find out. My expectation when I finish my sim is that I'm very heavy, that I get to the Dodgers because of the ownership coming into Musgrove. And then I kind of think I'm going to get to the Yankees because of the ownership coming into Corbin Burns. But both of those situations are going to be tough. And the problem really lies in the fact that there's only really one paid option at pitcher, and David Fettling 50-50 ownership, but getting to Walker, who is not Bueller any longer, or Belozo, who I don't imagine anybody wants to get to, paying down a pitcher becomes like a really difficult exercise too. Do you have any interest at all in the Marlins?
Yeah, I mean, full disclosure, like I'm only playing 3 lineups and I'm playing Festa, but if I were multi-entering, I'd have a lot of interest just considering the ownership Festa's getting. And they've been good lately. Like they haven't been amazing. They haven't been one of the top offenses in baseball, but they've been better recently than they have been all year with a bunch of their young guys in this lineup. So I don't think Festa's like he's clearly not some proven guy that I'm afraid to use hitters against. I just think for me, like he's the second best pitcher. Not the second best pitcher. He's my second favorite pitcher on this slate pretty clearly. Like, I think that as far as like just raw points go, I easily could see him being second overall behind Cole. I wouldn't even be shocked if he's first overall. I don't like Burns at all in this spot. I'm out on Musgrove, Bueller, no thanks. So that really leaves Festa and Beozo. I don't even hate Beozo just because of the ownership that the Twins are getting. Twins aren't that great themselves.
No, they are not. I mean, there's a piece of the Marlins, like Jake Berger, Jesus Sanchez, Stowers, like that trio for a day like today is pretty interesting to me just because there's so much potential there. But a lot of really zeros in this lineup. Daryl Otto has Nick Fortes, Xavier Edwards. I mean, that's Jonah Bride too, I guess. I mean, they have 5 guys in their starting lineup today that project via steamer with 125 or lower ISOs. Like there's either guys that have immense pop or 0 pop, which is a little scary, but on a 3-game slate, like it doesn't matter as much. You can get by on, 2 singles and a walk instead of needing to run out on, like 8+ homers on a day like today. The fact that Festa is pulling 53% ownership is interesting. He deserves every bit of it. I mean, the fact that he's 7,400 here against the Marlins, like that's the reason that he's as owned as he is. He deserves every bit of it on a slate like today, but they are sneakier to me. The problem I think that lies in the Marlins And you make up for it a lot in value. The most expensive guy in the lineup's 4,400. I mean, that is just criminally cheap compared to the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Padres, the Orioles. Um, they're fourth in ownership. Like, people are getting there, and they're pretty, like, every single guy is 10% or more, which again, you're going to expect on a 3-game slate, but they're all in like the 13-14% range. So their top stack odds are terrible. They're worse for me than they are for Stochastic. They look a little bit better in stack score in comparison to ownership. It's the Festa ownership that
Yeah.
really piques my interest. I could see
Yeah,
myself
because
being right at the field for Festa and also have like 20% of the Marlins.
yeah, on a lot of slates, like I would say there are plenty of scenarios where Festa's just okay and the Marlins are just okay. But on this one, considering there's only 3 games and they're both really cheap, if Festa's not good, I expect Miami to be at least decent and mini stack worthy. Um, but again, like I just don't like any other pitchers on this slate. So I'm on the Festa side. One of my biggest concerns about him is just the short lease. The Twins are clearly in must-win mode.
Yeah.
They've like fallen out of the playoffs. So they're not even likely to make it at this point. They're going to do everything they can to win this game. That said, like Simeon Woods Richardson barely gave them anything yesterday. So they had to go to the pen early. If Festa's good, they're going to stay with him. And he's been pretty good at this price in this matchup. So, yeah, I think the Marlins are viable because of Festa's ownership, not because I like them on paper or anything.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I could always hear you. It was just coming in a little bit fuzzy at times.
No, I unplugged my mic and plugged it back in. I was making sure that plugging it back in was a thing because I got a message
yeah.
from Jordan and then I saw Malakar mention it too. I don't know what's going on with it. So if it keeps happening, my apologies. I just assumed that I wasn't plugged into my mic at first, but I am. So if that keeps being shitty, Jordan, keep letting me know. Dodgers lineup came out basically right at the beginning of the show. It was the lineup that everybody expected. Ohtani, Betts, Freeman, Teoscar, Muncy, Smith, Edman. Lux and Pages are flip-flopped. That should matter precisely 0 to anybody that cares. We haven't talked about the Orioles yet. They've got Garrett Cole coming up against them, who's, the highest owned guy with Festa. We really haven't said them at all. Are the Orioles more interesting than the Marlins? I mean, they're the least owned team on today's slate.
I think they're similar. I think that Cole is certainly better than Festa, but the Orioles are certainly better than the Marlins, so that kind of evens itself out. I do like them more than Miami for tournaments, just because I think Miami could just, if they get to Festa, they're not a team that hits a ton of home runs. Baltimore is, and they run. We saw it last night. So I'm always more apt to get to a team like Baltimore than Miami, even in a tough matchup. The tough matchup's why they're low owned. So for me, yeah, it would be Baltimore. Again, the context of the slate for me says that I really only like Cole and Festa for pitching options. I'm playing only a couple lineups, so that's where I'm going to go. But if I were multi-entering, I'd be over the field on Baltimore for sure. Cole hasn't even been like vintage Garrett Cole this year, so I don't even think they're an awful stack just on that regard.
No, I think the only thing that's really, it's a 2-factor thing that's hurting them. One, it's not like, I mean, even if Cole's not Cole, he's still good. And then they're not exactly cheap. So they've got a tough matchup with some relatively expensive pricing at the top. And I think that's sort of the limiting factor. But man, they feel like the most interesting team to me. I don't know if they're going to show up. I just ran my final sim, but they feel interesting and like kind of slept on.
The pricing doesn't really matter because if you're stacking them, you're not using Cole, and it's just cheap pitching. So yeah, they're expensive, but again, like every team basically on this slate that you want to roster, except for Minnesota, is kind of expensive. That's the other reason why Minnesota is going to get a ton of love. They are basically the only team that's facing a pitcher that no one wants to roster, and they're cheap.
Man, I hope I actually get to them a little bit. I mean, they're a natural like Orioles plus Burns plus Festa, fill out however you want stack. I don't even hate the idea of grabbing like Chisholm or Soto as a one-off on the way back against Baltimore. Like it's a 3-game slate. You could absolutely roster somebody against your own pitcher. I don't mind grabbing one of those guys who have just light tower power. Even Austin Wells, if you want to go, if you don't want to go to Rutschman in part of your stack and bring Wells back in it, I don't think that would be crazy at all. Kind of talked about all of the stacks. Chat, what do you guys got your eye on? I hear myself echoing. I didn't realize I have my door open. Maybe that was the issue. Yeah, chat, what are you guys looking at? It's a really weird slate. It's a fun slate. I mean, there's so much talent. It's weird how like the Yankees, the Orioles, the Twins to a degree,
Right.
Dodgers and Padres are here, and then it's just like the Marlins are this like stink bomb that is also, I mean, depending on, you want to use my data, you want to use the site data, they're like a 10% chance to be the top stack. I mean, you play a couple 3-game slates over the course of 10 days, like they're going to be the team that tops off one of those times.
You're like talking me into Miami because it's one of those things where it's the classic. It's not going to work out that often, but when it does, it's just easy to see your way to the top of GPPs. Whereas like Minnesota, yeah, they look really good, but even if you stack them and they go off, if you don't have the exact right pieces, you might not even cash.
Yeah, absolutely. Alfred Mann said attacking Festa. I get it. Michael Pavlik says, I'm all over the place as usual. HGTVs on Yanks in Baltimore. I like that. Malakar, I'm wondering who is that one guy who blows up? Yeah, I think everybody's wondering that because on the 3-game slate, you have to have it. There's no way around it. Like whoever the best hitter is today, you're going to need him in the best. I mean, you kind of have to become like relatively perfect on a day like today. On big slates, it doesn't matter. On like 3-gamers, it looks a lot more like showdown almost, where you don't have a lot of margin unless it's a high owned guy. Like if Festa has like a slightly below average day, that might not matter at all. But if some hitter goes out there and, hits a bomb and steals a base, like you pretty much have to have that on a 3-gamer.
Unless it's just an outrageously high scoring slate, which is unexpected. But yeah.
Yeah, you would need multiple games to go bonkers.
Right. Where like a few guys do that or that of similar in DraftKings points. But I'm with you. Like, yeah, the margins for errors on slates like this is just a lot smaller.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the ownership for all hitters, there's only basically like one guy that's teetering around like something low, like Ramon Urias is like 7% or something like that. But, pretty much everybody, like 90% of the field is 10% or more. So even if you get that one guy right, there's still going to be, if you're in a 5,000 person contest, 500 more people are going to have that dude at the very least. On average, it could be a lot higher depending on who we're talking about here. My sim is just about done. I'm fascinated with what's going to show up here. I don't think I'm going to like it. I'm pretty confident there. Let's touch on the pitching a little bit. We've got Garrett Cole, and hit the like button if you haven't yet. We've got an NFL show coming up after this. We don't stop our content yet. We're going to break down baseball until we can't break it down any longer. And then after this show, leading into kickoff of the Cowboys and Giants game, you get NFL Live Before Lock for an hour, breaking this bad boy down. The NFL is here, man. Every Thursday, every Sunday, every Monday, you get an absolute shit ton of content from the team at Stochastic. So pitching, Cole at 9K, Burns at 8,800, Musgrove at 8,600, Festa at 74, Walker Buehler at 62, and then Belozo in at 5,600. Leading the charge, Cole and Festa slightly north of 50%. Burns and Musgrove are both sitting around 30, Buehler around 20, Belozo around 10. We've already touched on the value that you're getting out of David Festa. The other guy that we touched on was Cole. Where do you land on Burns and Musgrove?
I don't really like either of them here. Again, I think in the context of like multi-entering, they're in play because they're uh, under-owned as far as top pitcher percentage goes and how owned they're going to be. But I just think the spots are so rough for them. Again, Dodgers and Yankees. Not that I think Cole's in a good spot. I just think that he's a better pitcher than Musgrove and Burns for my money, as far as DFS purposes go. And then Festa's just so cheap in the best matchup. So I do think that Musgrove and Burns are like the clear next two best options. But I think they're the clear next two. Like I think that Cole and Festa are the clear top two.
I have what looks like lock buttoned, close to lock buttoned Cole and Festa. I'm pasting my lineups in now to see what it looks like. 72% Garrett Cole, 96% David Festa. I don't really see a problem with that. They, to me, are very clearly the top two guys. You could, like, I'm cornering the market on those two dudes. I have a little bit of Burns. I have a little bit less of Musgrove, a tiny bit of Bueller, and no Belozo. So in the grand scheme of things, I have them in the order that I want them. All this takes, and based on 96% Festa, I don't have the Marlins. There's pretty much no way to do that, even though I'm allowing one guy on the to come back in it. Can only have so much of the opposite side at that point.
I took down a slate like maybe a month ago. I think it was a 2-game slate where I used Skeens and stacked the Cubs against them, like full 5-man. Like when I say take, it was like a small 100-man tournament, but 2-game slate. And I think that changes it a lot to 2-game compared to 3-game. I think you're fine with 1-2 hitters even against your pitcher, especially if those guys run. And considering how cheap Festa is, like we don't expect him to throw a complete game shutout here. Miami's going to get some hits, probably score a couple runs. So if you have those guys and it's a small, like it's a low scoring slate, you're probably in a good spot. The only thing I'll say about Belozo is, man, he's so cheap. The Twins are going to be so highly owned. And as you mentioned, like a couple minutes ago, there are a lot of good teams / hitters on this slate. All of a sudden, if you go like Belozo and whoever, you can roster Ohtani, Judge, and you know what I mean? Whatever else you want. So I'm not doing it, but it's intriguing.
So I ended up just jamming the Twins and the Padres.
Oh man, me too.
43% of the Twins, 33% of the Padres, 11% of the Orioles, 9% of the Yankees. I think that's the path that I had to take. Decent chunk of Judge, Wells, Rizzo. Decent chunk of Soto, Wells, Rizzo. Not a lot of Judge. Got to 8% of Ohtani. Kind of wish I got a little bit more there, but not really much we can do. It's just an overwhelming amount of
good hitters.
Yeah, look, Trevor Larnach, most exposed guy, Royce Lewis, Correa, Buxton, Farmer, Tatis, Arise, Ryan Jeffers. I mean, they're the guys I would, besides Luis Arise, but that's a different style of player to get to. I mean, it's all guys I would want to get to. Larnach, big power, Royce Lewis, Correa, Buxton, Tatis, like Farmer. No, not Farmer. Tatis. These guys have real pop. Like I'm trying to buy as many home runs as I can, it seems.
And these are the slates I don't mind, Arias. Like, yeah, there are a lot of good hitters on this slate, but there's still only 3 games. So like his 2 singles and 2 runs like could easily be enough.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't, I mean, at hitting today, I can give you that number. Give me 1 second. I have a goal score for hitters today at like a little over 13 fantasy points.
Yeah, exactly. So there you go.
So like that makes Luis Arise a very different play than he would be on a large slate. Ew, man. There are, oddly enough, I have 15 hitters that I did not get a share of. Most of them suck. Some of them don't, but most of them suck. No Teoscar, no Stanton, no Dominguez, no Jake Berger. I mean, no real Marlins in general.
How many is this 20 lineups?
25.
Okay, 25.
All right, chat. What are you looking at for pitching today? Wait, let me make sure that that is a true statement coming out of Josh Gillum. It is. Jose Miranda got scratched from the Twins lineup.
I see Austin Martin got put in instead.
Yes, he did in the 9-hole. Well, on the sim that I ran, I got everybody on the Twins, but I never had a single share of Jose Miranda. So oddly enough, that scratch means nothing to me. I have everybody else. I have 7 of those 9 guys in 28% or more of my lineups, but I never got a single share of Jose Miranda.
Of course, I have him in one of my 3, and he's only outfield eligible. So damn annoying.
All right, chat. What are you looking at? Jeff S says, how about 1 to 2 Baltimore bats and Cole? 1, yes. I'm not a big fan of going to 2. You can. It's not something that I usually limit it to 1. Rance said, avoided Rockies game yesterday. Worked out well. Yeah, I thought I was going to make a little bit more money on this early slate, and then I opened up the box score once we started. I had no idea that Colorado won the game.
They did. They came back late.
Yeah, I did not need that. I did not have the Rockies. That was unhelpful and probably cost me a bunch. I needed the White Sox to do more than just have 1 inning of work. That one didn't help me in any way. All right, chat. What else are you guys looking at? And Jordan, let's run a sim. Let's see what's showing up in the sims. Like the main sim, not the single lineup sim. Oh, you've got it already. Holy shit. Look at you. All right, let me pin that so I can see it. So we're looking at. Hey, give me the regular exposures, not the stack exposures. Oh boy. Well, that's a little different than everything we've talked about.
Can't wait to hear this one.
The most exposed player in the entire sim. It's a pitcher. Care to guess?
It's completely different than what we've been talking about. Hold on. I will guess. Give me 1 second. I am going to say Walker Buehler.
Walker Buehler, 67% exposure.
Wow.
That would terrify me. But again, it's a 3-game slate. Like, I just talked about the goal score for hitters. For pitchers, it's 16.5. Now, that is significantly higher than how I have Walker Buehler projected today. But, you know, all he has to do is just not give up runs and he's fine. Like, he doesn't have to go out there and strike out 9 guys to be the dude today. You just have to be functional and then probably pick up the win. And you're just going to get to that score that you need on a day like today by default. Festa was number 2. Both he and Buehler are basically like 60 and change. Festa's just shy of it at 59.3. Third most exposed player here, Aaron Judge.
Love that for you.
That one I'd feel a little bit more comfortable. Royce Lewis, Byron Buxton, Ryan Jeffers, like we go to those guys and then it's just jam city on those Minnesota dudes, which makes so much sense. They're so cost effective to get to. If you're going to get to that much Aaron Judge, you know, we have 28% of Cole. So fading Cole, half the field there. Gleyber Torres with a pretty big stand. So I'm guessing we have like a decent chunk of the Yankees just based on that Judge exposure and the Torres exposure that I see. Do we have stack exposures that you can show me? Holy shit, I can't see that. Is that 5-man stacks exposure? Just sort by 5-man stack exposure. Appreciate you, Jordan. Thank you. So 28% Minnesota. Okay, so a little bit less stacks for the Yanks, but 9%. 14% of our 5-man stacks are coming into the Miami Marlins.
Wow. I mean, yeah.
We talked about it.
Yeah, I mean, all leverage. And on slates like this, I can't hate on it at all.
Yeah. Psycho says, not sure about Bueller. I agree, but on a 3-game slate, it's not the same sort of like I got to draw a line through this dude's name. 4-man stacks, we got to a little bit. Okay, and that makes sense. We got to a bit like in terms of 4-mans, it looks like the Yankees are our most exposed 4-man at like 9.3%. That makes some sense to me. It's a lot easier to get to the Yankees as a 4-man on a 3-game slate than it is a 5-man. And I don't, the difference between a 4 and a 5 on this kind of slate, I don't mind whatsoever. You want 5 on the day where the Yankees score 15 and no one else scores more than 6. 4-man stack is going to be totally fine. It makes some sense to be getting to New York there. We're really not getting to Dodgers at all from a stack perspective. 3.5% 4-mans, 3.5% 5-mans. That makes sense. Like if you're going to choose the Yankees, you're really going to have a hard time getting to the Dodgers after that. I wouldn't have been surprised to see a little bit more Dodgers, just given the amount of Walker Bueller we have. I think if you're willing to take that big of a stand on Bueller, you'd kind of assume that the Dodgers are also succeeding more than they're failing. But I obviously like getting to the Yankees. I mean, Soto and Judge are like a cheat code to baseball at this point. They're, I mean, are arguably like one of the best duos that have ever played the game for this season.
So funny.
It's
So
crazy
is
to
That's
think about.
Ohtani.
Yeah, I mean, it's just an abundance of talent right now.
Yeah. I think as far as like the top 2 goes, it is Judge and Ohtani. But then when you add like Freeman, etc., the Dodgers starts to look a little bit better. But man, so much talent just on this slate in particular. You're right.
I mean, they have 4 dudes that have a 210 plus projected ISO. Soto and Judge are almost at 300.
Woo!
I mean, one of those 2 dudes hits a home run every day.
Yeah, it seems like it.
I mean, how many does Soto have? Obviously, Judge has
I think 40.
50 something.
40, like 41, 42. This is the first year he's ever hit 40. I know that.
I'm pulling it up right now. He has 41 right now. I mean, he's just nuking the ball, which, I'm not surprised. It's all he's ever done. Man, these guys are so damn good.
I wonder if they'll keep Soto. Probably because it's the Yankees.
They have to, right?
They have to. They can't like if the Yankees aren't keeping him, like what are we doing?
I mean, what are the choices really? Like he's not going to the Dodgers, right? So the Giants, I mean, if I'm Juan Soto, I don't want to go to the Giants. But if you're going to take the bag, then you don't mind playing. Like it's okay to be in San Francisco if you're signing there for 7 years.
Right. Exactly. If
care.
you're already getting the money. And also
you don't want to
like,
be there to you don't want to be there to get the contract.
Right.
You want to go there to get the contract.
Right. And again, he is the type of hitter, like he's not a home run hitter. So I still think that he would be fine in San Fran. He wouldn't be as good for DFS, but like he'd still be a great hitter.
Yeah, he's going to be putting balls in the cove for sure.
Exactly. And yeah, if he gets, I just can't imagine the Yankees getting like outbid by the Giants for a guy that is on the Yankees currently.
I would be shocked if he leaves the Yankees, but I would be lying if I said that I've been paying attention to baseball salaries the way that I used to.
Fair.
Like I have no idea what he's in line to be signing for. He only has 5 years of service time. In my mind, that's not the case.
I think I don't know that, like, I'm not like that up to date. Like, I don't follow the contract stuff like that hardcore, but I got to imagine the contract that he's going to get is going to be like not close to Ohtani's, but the highest except for Ohtani.
Yeah. I mean, he's making 30 million this year. I can't imagine he's making less than that next year.
Well, isn't he?
I mean, what's he looking at? 7 years, 280, 300, 400? I don't know.
I think 4, like I think,
Uh,
yeah.
Mark in chat says Cardinals rumored to put in a big bid for Soto. That would surprise me. Not that they're not going to try to get Juan Soto. I mean, every team would like to sign Juan Soto except for the Pirates. They'd be like, "Oh, Juan Soto, we got to send you down to AAA. You got a bonus in your contract for hitting 60 dongs. Can't be letting you do that."
I would be flabbergasted if a team out of the Midwest comes in and signs Soto.
So would I. If Juan Soto were from St. Louis,
Right.
maybe
Yeah.
not from St. Louis. Spoiler alert.
No.
Not to my knowledge,
No.
at least.
No, he's not.
Yeah, he's gonna get. I mean, he's gonna just sign with. He has to sign with the Yankees, right?
Has to.
I don't want him to. I mean, I don't like the Yankees to have good things.
It's funny. He's from the Dominican Republic. It'd be funny if you were from like St. Louis, Dominican Republic. He's not.
No, no. You should sign for the Braves. I should advocate for that, right? That'd be good for me.
Well, the Braves don't need to sign free agent hitters because they sign all of their guys for cheap.
Yeah, they just blackmailed them into preposterous contracts. I mean, the Ozzy Albies one, like obviously Acuna is wildly underpaid, but he also like exploded, not necessarily in a way that you could totally expect. Ozzy Albies signed a 7-year, $35 million contract with the Braves. He makes $7 million a year for the next 4 years.
Yeah, I mean, he should be making 3-4 times that.
I mean, like it hasn't been great. He has 3 separate 4-win seasons. Like obviously, injuries got him a little bit this year, but 7 million, man, I don't know what they told him was coming in, but like he should. I mean, his agent
To
should
be
get fired
fair,
into the sun.
I agree with that, but I know a lot of people have talked about that. Like, I wasn't there, and I don't remember exactly, like some injury concern or some teammates had gotten injured or something. And while he did leave a ton of money on the table, that still is life-changing money, especially considering the circumstances he came from. So, like, I don't think it's the right move, but like, I can't totally say that, like, oh, like he can do whatever the fuck he wants. You know what I mean? Who am I to count his pockets?
It's not that I think that like he should have got 7 years and 150, but like if 35 were 65, it'd be like, okay,
Totally
sure.
agree.
And that's not like, so he signed that deal April 11th, 2019. His 2018 season was worth 4 WAR. He was a plus defender and a league average hitter at 21. Then he showed up and did the same thing again the year that he signed that contract. So by the time he finished finished the first year of that deal, he had played 2 back-to-back 4-win seasons as a better than league average hitting second baseman and at least an average glove.
I would say he's a consensus top 5 second baseman in baseball.
Yeah. And he's going to make $7 million a year for the next 4.
Yeah, I mean,
the last 2 years are $7 million options. Like, they're not his option either.
Yeah,
he bought out 4. He bought out his 2 pre-arbitration years, all 3 ARB years, and 4 free agency years for $28 million. It didn't. His agent let him down. There's no chance that if they were like, no, we 100%. Needed 55 million, they were not going to laugh. Like the Braves were going to be like, yeah, that's a great deal. Thank you.
It's so egregious that I'm honestly surprised the Braves haven't like ripped it up and given him more money.
Joe Blanco, that's exactly what we just explained. Exactly. To a T. Go look at every other contract that got signed for people of that ilk when they signed away 4 or 5 years of arbitration and then 4 years of free agency. No team gave out a deal like that. None, ever, for a player that had done what he had done at that point in time. People have gotten significantly more than that with less playing time.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, honestly, Colt Keith's contract is very similar. It's 6 for 28.5, and he had never played a major league game when they gave him that.
Yeah.
You're hoping if Colt Keith gives Ozzie Albies production, the Tigers have struck gold. Like, you know what I mean?
The problem is selling the free agent years. Like, you want to buy, if they got him low there and bought out a free agent year,
yeah,
it's a very different discussion. Yeah. 4. That could have been a whole other contract.
Yeah, he could have easily left like close to 100 mil on the table.
Easy. All right, Jordan, do you have the single lineup sim still pulled up? I saw you were farting around in it there. I want to build one. The single lineup czar is going to build. We're going to build one together right now. And then we're going to send this on our merry way because we got to 644. We're going to do one of these. I'm going to pull it up on my screen so I also have it because seeing Jordan's screen is difficult. Not Jordan's fault. Perils of Zoom. I should be able to just make that amazing, but whatever. So who do you want to build? I'll let you choose the team.
For stacking, let's do the Yankees.
Let's do the Yankees. So I think you and I are probably on the same page here. We want Soto and Judge.
Yeah, and it's not even that hard to get. I mean, honestly, anytime I'm stacking the Yankees, I want Soto and Judge. This doesn't happen often in baseball, but like they skew the Yankees team total a lot themselves. So like, I don't really want all the other Yankees. Like I want them with Soto and Judge, but not without them.
Austin Wells.
Yeah, I think he's the third best guy there right now.
Now, if we want to talk about value, Rizzo is the overwhelming best value for the Yankees. I think we should try to save some salary there.
Yeah, I'm with you. Plus, first base isn't that great.
Yeah, and then Gleyber Torres is the second best value. Anthony Volpe is third. Do you have a preference between the two as our final guy?
I like Torres leading off more. I think he's also just the better DFS hitter. Okay. The one thing I will say also, and this is a guy I thought about this when you talked about the guys that you had left that you weren't getting in any of your lineups. I don't like Stanton on paper here. Like this is not a good spot. I really, obviously prefer him against lefties, but he's going to be low owned because he's kind of expensive. And anyone who goes to Yankees outfielders is going to go to Soto and Judge. So like on slates like this, I don't mind taking a shot there. In this lineup, no, just wanted to shout it out.
Okay. Yeah, I like it too. I think in that situation, you might have to kill one of Judge or Soto, but
right. Which again, doesn't feel good, but it's baseball. One of those type deals.
Absolutely. You would not be surprised at all to see Giancarlo Stanton, Mike Stanton go yard. The former Mike Stanton.
He's going to get to 500 home runs. Is he a Hall of Famer? No, it's not.
Right?
But he is going to get to 500 home runs. He is not a Hall of Famer, but it's like a discussion right now.
Let's see. How many does he have? He's got 428. I mean, he certainly can get there. He's just been shit for 6 years, basically.
I wouldn't say that he definitely will get there because it's 70 home runs, but if he plays 4 more years, he should get there.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but no, I don't. There's no chance he gets in.
Yeah, I'm with you.
He would have to get on like the late career HGH plan.
Which, hey,
he might have already been on that plan. Who do we want to do for pitching? It seems like we have to go to Festa.
Yeah, got to go to Festa, especially if you're using expensive hitter. So Festa, and you pick the second guy.
We're gonna leave the second guy out for right now because I want to see how much salary we get. I think the answer is Walker Buehler, but on the off chance that we can squeeze out an extra 2,800 here, I'd be intrigued by Cole. I don't think that's going to work out very well for us, but we need a third baseman, a shortstop, and an outfielder. By all accounts, they're going to have to be pretty good value options. Third base is sitting there staring us in the face with Royce Lewis. I'm going to test it first. Shortstop is sitting there then with Carlos Correa. That's going to get difficult. The final outfield spot, is a $2,900 Trevor Larnach. That leaves us $5,600 at pitcher. The only pitcher that we can put in at that point is Belozo. So getting to Lewis and Correa is an impossibility for what we want that lineup to be. The other interesting part that we can do here, Connor Norby is the second best option. The problem is we have Festa. But if we go to Norby, the other decent, like the other value shorts, we're having trouble finding enough salary to do what we're trying to do here is the real problem. Because Royce Lewis is just going to be too expensive. Or I guess probably the real thing is Carlos Correa is going to be too expensive. Can we go Machado, Bogarts? Who's the best value option? And Profar? Nope, not even. That's worse than the last one. This is all right. Right away, I can tell that we need to do one thing. Put in Walker Buehler. We have about 4K to fill out the rest of this lineup. And for the most part, I'm thinking outfield is just going to be like whoever we end up with. I need a third baseman and a shortstop.
Doesn't look like there's any like cheap guys on this slate to roster, which kind of stinks.
Ramon Urias. Oh my God. Xander Bogaerts. Now, yeah, I don't mind if Bogaerts is there against Walker Buehler. And then, like, I don't know, Willie Castro and leave some salary on the table? I'm going to run what I just put in here right now, but I hate it. 11.7 simulated ROI. There's something there. I don't know what
the Judge and Soto together makes it tough.
It's where that's $13,100 of salary. The problem is some of the other decent values are Yankees. Like, Anthony Volpe makes things a little bit easier, but then we're taking out one of these dudes. I don't know.
Maybe it's Volpe over Torres from your earlier question, and then go to a cheap second baseman.
Let's see what's out there at second for value. Okay, Kyle Farmer is the overwhelming best value second baseman. That syncs up with what we need. That actually is going to allow us to get Royce Lewis if we're using Walker Buehler. And then now we can take a $5,700 outfielder. We could put in Byron Buxton at 5K, leave $700 on the table. Aggregate ownership is 240%. That might be a little high, but we definitely made this lineup better.
Totally with you.
50.5 simulated ROI. So that was the move. Taking out Torres to get to Volpe, unlocked Farmer, Lewis, Buxton. 5-3 Yankees, Minnesota with Festa, and then just a stray Walker Buehler.
Hey, weirder shit has happened.
We're the smartest people alive, folks. 50% ROI took us, what, 2 minutes, 3 minutes? Probably a little bit more than that, but God, you and I are Co-Czar.
Yes.
Of the lineup sim. Matthew Belman. Love to see it. You got anything else you want to touch on before we dip on out of here?
No, I literally think we talked this slate to its death and then some. So I'm good.
There we go, folks. Thank you for being here. Good luck on this slate tonight. And if you're playing NFL Showdown, you're in luck. You get an NFL Showdown show coming up in a little bit. Jordan, what time does that start? 7:30? 7:15? Laffy and Greg? Laffy and Greg at 7:15, breaking down Cowboys and Giants. Don't miss it. We'll talk to you guys later. Thank you for being here. Sign up at Stochastic.